Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me this evening on the late one in review, where we look at some of the top news which is out there. And of course, today we're going to be centering mostly on the Chancellor's autumn statement and just getting reactions. I want to thank those who are on Facebook, those on YouTube, and those on Instagram. For those on Instagram, you only can see myself only, but you can jump over into the YouTube channel. I won't go much longer, but just bring in my guests, which is firstly Anthony Francis and Gary, just to join me as we sort of do a little review of the new chancellor, the new prime minister, and get a little reaction and feedback as to how they have been going since the trust economics from the last autumn statement. Thank you so much. Let's Anthony, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, Silvan, good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for joining on this beautiful day. And Sir Gary Graham, how are you doing?
Not bad. It's great to know that I can join colleagues, eminent colleagues such as yourself and Anthony. It's great to know that not only you can manage me, but Anthony can remind me every now and again that I'm a man of the cloth.
Well,
Because
well, it's always good to be joined by eminent persons. Someone posted on a Facebook page, and they were saying, I think it was in the Voice newspaper, that the BBC's cutting all these black programs, and I just responded by saying, join the Silburn show tonight, and I posted my my flyer because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, for those watching, we don't have the time now to cuss and fight. We are so creative and we got so much into it. We got to think it, plan it, do it now. Anthony, I put that over to you, isn't it? Think it, plan it, do it now, isn't it?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. If it reminds me of Tyler Perry when he said that he wasn't invited to the Hollywood table, so he said he built his own.
Exactly. And Gary, if there's no table, if you can't get into the house with a table, what do? You build your door and you build your house, isn't it?
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll just follow you guys. Put it that way. I'll just follow you guys.
Well, trust me, we're in good hands. Well, guys, listen. We had a Chancellor autumn statement today. The last autumn statement we were here, and it was all chaos. And one of the things that I looked at was they always remember the market was this major force, major factor. The market, and the pound stood firm. And there's this quietness in the zone. It's like there's a sturdy hand. Anthony, I put it over to you, and even compare it with the last time. What's the difference now?
Well, I think what you're seeing, or what we have seen today with the presentation by Jeremy Hunt, is somebody who has made sure that he didn't follow his predecessor's mistakes by simply putting forward lots of very nice headline grabbing statements, but actually didn't have the costings to back anything up. And it's very easy to talk, but in the real world, it has implications. And clearly, what we saw today was Jeremy Hunt being very studious, being very
Mm,
serious, and being very open and honest and transparent with what the situation was with the public finances. And he made sure to reference the OBR on many occasions during his speech this morning. And in order to make sure that his economics was actually based on sound ground. And I think that the difference is with the last autumn
mm.
statement done by Kwesi Kwarteng. Unfortunately, there was a lots of promises, but none of them were actually costed. So as a result, the city went into a spin because they thought, well, okay, you've promised all this stuff, but it's going to cost you about 50 billion or so.
Yes.
Where is this money going to come from? And of
Mm.
course, the city gets very fragile because they're wondering, well, hang on a minute, things are built on solid foundation. You've just come
Yeah.
out with a load of stuff which is built on nothing. And of course, it then led to problems with pensions, and the pound suddenly losing value, etc. So I think what we've seen today is somebody who has learnt the lesson and has actually made sure that they presented a budget which is fiscally competent.
Mm. Gary, what's your take on it? I don't know if you were able to listen or any feedback.
Yeah, I did listen to a little bit of it. I mean, what I do agree with what Anthony has said, and also if you remember, just a few days ago, Silborn, I did say to you
Mm.
that Rishi Sunak has, since he has stepped into office, whether we admit it or not. But I think he has brought back a sense of stability and government business to hand. I mean, he is a businessman. He is one that knows
Mm.
how to, or knows how the money markets work and such. So I think that even though, if you notice, and I don't know if Anthony would agree, but yes, when he stands against the other leaders, he does to some
Mm.
extent. He is smaller in stature, very slim, and sometimes he doesn't come over as one with presence, if you understand what I'm saying. But
Mm.
I think that he has brought some degree of stability. The pound, you mentioned about the pound's value against
Yes.
the dollar, that seems to have stabilized. It's not as volatile as it was a few weeks back.
Mm.
There's been a bit of stability. I wouldn't say it's back up to where it was, if it is back there now, but he's brought back some degree of stability.
Yeah.
And with Jeremy Hunt standing at the dispatch box this morning, or this half, well, it was at 11:30, wasn't it?
11:30. Yes.
Quarter past 12. Standing there, giving his autumn speech on finances. I think that even though the opposition, the Labour Party, did, they made their noise as per usual, which they do,
Mm.
but there wasn't, I don't, well, I, there wasn't a degree of you don't know what you're doing kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
every opposition does bring, does oppose everything. Doesn't matter how good it is or how
Yes.
successful it may be or whatever. But I didn't sense the volatile reaction as it happened sometime before, and even during Boris's tenure, I didn't sense it. So I don't know if
Mm.
I'm missing something,
Yeah.
but
I think I understand what you're coming from. Is that what I sense from the opposition? They were only hitting at the 12 weeks of disaster and the 12 years, and that is the same old, same old. But they weren't cutting so much at the policies. Did you pick that up, Anthony? They weren't really cutting at the policies which were coming across.
Well, yeah, to be honest, Labour didn't really have much of a riposte.
Yes.
Jeremy Hunt was very competent. He outlined some very, not necessarily eye-catching statements, but, he put down markers that people didn't think he was going to do. Yes, we all heard about the trailers around tax cuts, but
Mm.
what he also did, he actually, did things that people thought they weren't going to do. So, for example, the triple lock on the pensions, he did. He increased the windfall tax, which Labour was saying they should do. That they increase spending for schools, they increase spending for hospitals, they increase spending for education. So therefore, it's very difficult for Labour to come back and say, well, you've left the situation worse. They've actually addressed the things that people were saying needed to be addressed, social care. So when you look at it in the round, yes, there may be some things that they can criticise on,
Mm.
and try and get headlines tomorrow like Scrooge and he's picked my pockets. Yeah, they're all nice headlines. They can actually have for tomorrow's newspaper. But the reality
Yeah.
for people every day is that they need security, they need stability, and they need competence. And
Yeah.
the city needs it, we need it, and I think that's what he brought this afternoon.
Yeah. Well, if we look at some of the winners, and I put it up there, we can agree because these are different um, companies that put it together. Those who are paid national living wage are set to have an increase in their hourly rate. These are the current rates of national living wage. Apprentices are those 481 an hour. I mean, you guys want to comment on those different figures which I have there?
Well,
Uh,
to be honest, I mean, it's not a question of comment on the different figures, Selborne. I mean,
yeah.
it speaks for itself. Overall,
Yes.
the Chancellor has uplifted, quite a number of people in
Yeah.
terms of, he's also linked the benefits to inflation. I mean, these are all the things that people were saying.
Mm.
Are you going to do it? Is the triple lock going to be secure? What are you doing for schools? What are you doing for for the NHS? You know, what
Married
about social
people,
care?
yeah.
All of these things has been actually touched on by the Chancellor. But at the same time, you know, if you're gonna make those promises, you have to also be able to actually pay for them, and that's the reason why he's lowered the income tax threshold from 100 I think it's 145,000 down to 125,000, and you know, which does mean it brings more people in. But
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, people keep on saying, you know, we've got to tax people who are earning slightly more. And of course, he's done the windfall tax as well, which Labour was going on about. He's increased it from 25 to 35%.
To 35, yes,
So,
yes.
you know, I mean, you know, I think in the round, I think it's a very comprehensive and a very competent autumn statement, and I don't really think there's much that Labour can really criticise him about it
Yeah,
on.
yeah. But there are some losers as well. Workers, personal allowance tax threshold and the higher rate tax threshold are being frozen until 2028. You know, electric car drivers. Any of you guys have electric cars? You're gonna go start paying tax now, road
I can't
tax.
afford one.
Huh?
I can't afford one.
But a lot of people are now saying all that sort of incentive to get the electric car drivers. I mean, you know, paying tax. I mean, I think
Well,
the next step is for bicycles. Sorry, Gary, go on. I mean, Gary, go on.
but the thing about it, Silborn, is that it's the same thing. It's the same tactic or ploy that they did with diesel. If you remember,
Mm,
you know, diesel. I never bought a diesel until now. Really, this is the first time ever.
mm,
But diesel tax was low. Diesel fuel was cheaper than
yes.
petrol. Everything was cheap at that
Mm,
point, you know. And then everybody went out there and bought a diesel car. And then
yes.
when that happened, what did they do? They hiked up everything concerning diesel. Now,
Mm,
now they want to cut out diesel. The same thing's going to happen with electric. You know,
and,
they want everybody
yeah.
to buy one. It's out of the reach of everybody, of most people, I would say. And then, you know, they made it look as if you wouldn't have to pay road tax at all. Now
Mhm.
they're going to start charging at 2025. I mean, what else is going to come out of the woodwork? Obviously,
Yes.
roads. And the thing about it, you know, Silborn, is
Mm,
that um, electric cars are significantly more heavier than cars that run on petrol or diesel. So the roads themselves are taking a battering because
mm,
the surfaces of the roads are made so that they can bear the weight of the petrol or the diesel. With battery operated cars now, they are significantly heavier. So you're going to
yes.
see grooves in the road now. That's what you're going to see.
Yes. And also for council tax, the local authorities cannot write council tax above 2.99% without the local referendum. But in today's budget, he has announced that council tax can now be increased by 5% without a vote. I'm assuming right there that council tax councils will jump on that right away. What do you think?
Yeah, but again, you know, it's the old you
Adage.
know, swinging roundabouts. You know, and this is what all political parties will do. They will give with one hand and they will take with the other. You know,
Yes.
there will always be winners and losers. This is
Mm,
the problem. I think with certain parties, political parties, all they want to see is winners, but it just doesn't happen like that. They can't all be winners. You know, it's a bit like going to school. And, you know, I think this is where the education system has fallen down a little bit, in my opinion, is that you go to school now and you know, back in the days when I was at school, you had O levels. I think we're old enough to all remember the O levels, and you had, you know,
A
grade
levels.
A, B, C, and D. Now,
Mm,
you know, I think these days with the GCSE systems, if I'm not mistaken, you've got grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 infinitum, because they
mm,
don't want to say to that person who's a loser or who hasn't done as well that they can't get their certificate. So they give them a
mm,
grade 7 or 8. We all know grade 7 or 8 is basically hopeless. You know, you know, you have to be
mm.
realistic with people. And if you haven't done very well, or you're not, that's not your strength or weak, or that's not your strength area, then you know, you'll be found out in an exam. So I just don't understand why, you know, if the Chancellor's made some increases in one area, it's
Yeah.
inevitable there's going to be some challenges in other areas, and it's going to affect certain people because not everybody is going to be a winner.
Well, that's a very interesting bit. But in a way, the economy, what we are saying, is going to be a winner. It's looking like they want the economy to be the winner at this time. Uh, but do we think that there's going to be interest rate? Because some punters are saying, or some opinions are saying, if they sort of make people start to spend more, Mister Bank of England governor is going to come out again and say, "I'm trying to curb spending. I don't want to create inflation anymore." Do we see a possibility of interest rate coming up again?
Well, personally, I don't think so. Sorry to interrupt, Gary. Personally, I
Yeah,
don't think so. Simply because the cost of living crisis right now is real. It's right now. It's today. No one's going to go out and just because of the announcement today and suddenly think, oh, I'm now going to go out
definitely.
and buy a new house. I'm going to go and spend excessive amounts of money. The heating bills are are staggering right now, right? You have to remember right now that the cost of living is in terms of the shops. You go to the shops now, you can't buy certain products, or certain products have gone up
I'm still
significantly.
I'm still feeling it for my orange juice, 55p, and it
Well,
jumped to 85p.
yeah, well, for the orange juice, you've got, we're talking about the day-to-day items that
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
needs: eggs, bread, milk,
yes,
butter. We're talking about the day-to-day stuff that we all go to the shops and buy. They're all increasing in price. So, I don't expect people to suddenly go on at Christmas now, suddenly go and spend, £2,000-3,000 on presents. It's just not going to happen. People are
yes,
cutting back because they've got to make sacrifices because bills have gone up, and there are the two major factors in the two elephants in the room that everyone knows, but they
yeah,
don't really talk about anymore.
mm,
We're coming out of the pandemic. That was a significant impact on everybody, and also the war in Ukraine is having a knock-on effect globally because of the shortage of energy that's being cut off by Putin.
yeah. Gary,
Well, I mean, I can't say anything different to what Tony has said.
mm,
Really, for them to put up the interest rates, if they were to put on the interest rates,
mm.
I think that would be um, it's it's like putting two nails into the same hand. Really,
I was gonna say the same word, a crucifixion,
yeah,
but that would be a high level crucifixion.
it
You
would
said
be.
two nails in the hand, yes.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. It would be very, very unfair because the cost of living, it's 41. Is it 41? 41 percent. The
Mm.
highest it's ever been. Cost of living is so it would make sense.
Yeah, there's one thing I like to pick up on, and because Anthony mentioned about Putin, COVID, and there's also in the mix Corseting and Liz Truss, Trust economics, and I keep hearing it a lot, and I'm putting it out there, and I think Anthony maybe can address this because I'm saying, why is Corseting and Liz Truss is deemed to be one of the damage, the created the damage of recent days, when it was the plane was still on the tarmac. It didn't pass the house. It didn't go anywhere. It was a proposal. Why? Why,
Yeah,
Anthony?
but
Yeah,
the main reason for this, Selborne, is because in those positions, your words have consequences. And they made the announcement that they were going to do a number of things
yeah,
that the city calculated as being in the region of about 50 billion. The only thing they didn't provide was how they were going to actually pay for all of these things. They
yeah,
were just giving it away like confetti. And of course, the city is where they need to get the money from. And if the city haven't been briefed on where this spending is, how this spending is going to be funded, then they're
mm,
looking around and thinking, well, hang on a minute, they're going to have to go out and borrow, or how are they going to pay for this back? So as a consequence, the city reacted accordingly, and suddenly interest rates went up. You saw
yeah,
mortgages being
yeah,
withdrawn. You saw
mm,
pensions suddenly being affected. All of a sudden the gilt market was suddenly being challenged. Suddenly there was this sort of knock-on effect, domino
yeah,
effect of all these different financial institutions being impacted because of what they said. So words have consequences, and this is the reason why I won't even call it Trussonomics, because there was no logic behind the economic presentation they gave. It was just
yes,
loads of words with no accountability. And it's a bit like if you're running your own financial household, you don't go out and spend money that you don't actually own yourself. There's no point running up a bill. It's like going to a restaurant and you ordering the biggest meal on the on the menu, and you haven't turned up to pay for it with any money in your pocket. I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
you
yes.
got to, you're in trouble. So that was really the economic madness behind Truss and Quasi. They were promising stuff without any backing up of how they were going to pay for it.
So if that's the case, then why can't interest rate then go back down? Since we are picking things are getting back in some sort of order.
Because
The
we've lost
pound has gone up.
credibility, Selborne. The markets have lost credibility in the UK. And once you lose credibility, it's a little bit like if you go to work tomorrow and you're
Yeah.
suddenly seen as being Selborne, the competent, you've taken 10 years to build that credibility in terms of who you are as a person. And then all of a sudden you shoot it down in 1 hour. We all know that it takes a lifetime to build up credibility and respect. It takes a few minutes to lose it all. And
Well,
that's what
a judge is not so happy with me today, though.
well, well, I can't help you on that one. I'm afraid you'll have to ask Gary. You have to ask Gary to pray for you.
I mean, based on what Anthony has said, the thought that came to me, if you ever wanted to see a reset, that was one. Because Quasi and Liz, as Tony Shorati said, all of their foundation or the basis of why they did anything at all,
Yeah.
there was nothing. I mean, all the past governments, whether it be conservative or labor, they've always based their economic on a particular father of economics, if you understand. One was John Adams, Adams. One is, various other economic basis. With this one, you don't know where they're coming from. They didn't know where they were coming from. They were just trying to kickstart the market, which they kicked the market in the balls, mate, and that's where it hurts. And as Timothy said, is that as soon as the market got that kick, they just lost all credibility in the government. So the government couldn't go back to, even though they may have wanted to go back to where things went wrong, but because the markets, and it's not only just one market, it's Wall Street, it's bond market, it's the Japanese market, it's the Australian market. It's all of that they're having to satisfy, really.
Well, one of the things, I go back to what Labour is saying. Labour is saying, and Labour was using a lot of rhetorics, like they wanted to create some sort of show and some lines which they had. Jeremy Hunt has picked the pockets of the entire country with stealth taxes, and that was the shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves branded Mr. Hunt tax rise and spending curbs and invoice for the economic carnage created by Liz Truss in the budget. Hunt insisted his plan would go through the economic storm. The Office for Budget Responsibility, which was a key factor which was underpinning or in consultation, painted a bleak picture with the UK's economy predicted to shrink by 1.4% next year. And the blame of the economic downturn on global headwinds and Russian President Vladimir Putin invasion of Ukraine, which have sent energy and food price soaring. But the Chancellor said this: what started in Russia with the downturn, the UK will actually pick that up and we will flourish. So therefore, there was a very positive outlook for this, and one believed that that was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if your camera was having a turn for itself. And look up, because we were seeing your neck back instead of seeing your face.
No, sometimes you got to change position, something I have a technical issue there, but at least we're hearing each other, you know. But but so what do we see then, like for the Christmas then? People are now. This is what everybody was waiting. Well, not everybody was waiting for, but this was like the key thing now. Uh, this budget is out there. The autumn statement is out there. How do we see the Christmas moving into the new year? What's your projection, Anthony? How do you see things unfolding? Stability in the government. I can
Well,
see the yeah.
as we've just touched on, the government have simply provided stable economics based on the situation that has resulted from the mini budget from Liz Truss and Kwarteng. So that had to be fixed. We know they had to get credibility back. They've done that. They've now given some assurity to certain individuals as to where they are. They provided some clarity around, as I've mentioned, around the NHS schools and social care. They've given assurances to people around the energy prices. They're going to keep the energy tariff or the support going a bit longer next year. So there's only so much, I suppose, at the end of the day that a government can do. I mean, the government can't pay your bills for you, and I think this is the problem. People keep on saying, the government should do more. Well, if they want the government to do more, it's got to come from somewhere. And where do the government get their money from? They get their money from taxes, right? The government don't have a money tree in Whitehall that they just simply all stand around and sing kumbaya and it just produces cash, right? It comes from our taxes, and the taxes come from money that we pay in purchases that we make in shops, the goods we buy, etc., etc. So they've tried to do their best, and of course, Labour will always, or an opposition party, should I say, not just Labour, an opposition party will always try and find gaps to exploit them. But if you were to put Labour right now in the same position that Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak find themselves in, the same deck of cards they were dealt, the question is, what would they do differently? What would they do differently that Jeremy Hunt has done today? Would they give more to schools? Would they give more to nurses? Would they give more to social care? If they, he's already given, I think it's about 10 billion combined to all of those, plus the triple lock, plus. Yes, of course, he's done tax. He's also reduced the income tax threshold because he's got to pay for it. So the question is, what else do you want him to do? And this is the problem when people talk. They talk and talk and talk, but they never provide any solutions. And at the end of the day, that's the situation that we're in.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I saw with Rishi Sunak and how he has been traveling the world so far, the little bit he has done, moving without his jacket, sleeves rolled up, ready for business, and he acknowledged that the UK, we had some shaky moments, but you can see very clearly that he's just seriously and down for business. Even when he's talking with Biden, I don't even think Biden understand what he was saying. When I saw that conversation there, so I'm really looking up with what is happening now, and I'm hoping that people will see it as not a kumbaya, but a moment of actually really getting in there. The only thing I'm looking at though is the nurses, and he made it very clear that they do not have that funds. I don't know if the nurses are going to still. The money was pushed into the NHS, But
yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, as you know, my wife used to be a nurse, so I understand the challenges that she had to encounter, as all people in the medical profession, nurses, have to encounter. Sadly, the care profession and the nursing profession, unlike other jobs, perhaps maybe in other public sector jobs, the pay is comparable. But it's not a post that pays, I would say, a significant amount of money in terms of what might be considered to be in the private sector. So I think it's a challenge for the government. The question is, again, if the government pays 17%, which is what the nurses said they feel they would like as an increase in their pay, how is that going to be funded? How can the government pay the nurses 17%? Just think about it for a minute. How many nurses are there? How much would that cost? Where will that money come from to pay the nurses 17%? It's just not going to happen, right? It's all well and good Labour coming out with their rubbish about why didn't you tax the non-doms? Give me a break. How many people are non-domiciled?
Non-doms, yes.
How many people is that going to? How much are you going to get from that? You're going to get chump change. So let's actually deal with the real issues. Labour can't come back too much to what Jeremy Hunt has said because he's actually fiscally provided quite a sound autumn statement.
Yes. Some are actually saying that he actually used some of the policies of the Labour Party as well. But anyway, that's
Probably.
another thing.
He did the
Mm.
windfall tax. Labour said they wanted that. He gave it to them. Triple up. He gave it to them. So what else? What
There's
else
not.
do people want?
Yeah, I've always said this many times, and Gary and I will speak about even yourself that it is so important that governments work together at this time, this very serious time, in creating solutions instead of being very political divisive, because we got this serious cost of living, and I'm so glad that the whole leadership bit is gone through the wind, and I'm so glad that I'm not hearing the call so much for that. I've heard a little twingling regarding the deputy prime minister regarding two cases of bully, and Gavin Williams recently was removed, and also Swilla Braverman. I think that has been quiet down because there's really a need at this time for some serious look at the economy where all stakeholders come together. And I believe we have maybe reached that point to a certain extent. Would you say that, Gary?
Um, I'll pass that on to my learned friend.
I think we should just have you as ditto. Anthony, do you believe that we're reached a point now where there's a level of maturity is coming through in looking at the economy and the cost of living instead of all of this which was going on for the past few weeks? Leadership, get rid of call election and all those sort of things, which are just distractions, which were just
Well, they
distractions,
are
really.
distractions, and people want certainty. The public wants certainty.
Yeah.
The city wants certainty. We all want certainty, and I think what
Mm.
Rishi Sunak has tried to provide is
Yes.
a statement like and businessman-like approach. Jeremy Hunt has also demonstrated that in the two performances that he's given in the House so
Yeah.
far. And I think this is what people are expecting now. They want to see the government and put everything back on track and give us a
Yes.
sort of certainty and a roadmap out, and give us some milestones that we can actually work towards. And I think that's what he's tried to do in very difficult circumstances. And of
Yes.
course, yes, we would all like to have more. People would say, give more to the nurses, give more to this area,
Civil
defense,
servants. Yeah.
etc.
Everybody.
Everybody wants more. The
Mm.
problem is, where will the money come from? And I don't know if you have the figures to hand, Selborne, but do you know how much the NHS get each year currently? What goes to the NHS?
Mm.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's something like 100 billion is what goes to the NHS each year. Now I know a lot of that, it also goes for pay, infrastructure, and the like. But people, the Conservatives have also promised to sort of build some new hospitals. Again, this costs money. So the bottom line is, yes, he's tried to put everything back on a stable footing. He's tried to be more businesslike. He's tried. You're right. The distractions have all gone away, and we've got to let them now get on and implement the things that they're saying they're going to do. So they've outlined a plan now. They've given us some clear guidelines and some milestones. We've now got to see if those milestones come to fruition.
The central administration budget for NHS England in 2022-2023 has been set at 608 million. Our programs costs are focused on the delivery of our corporate priorities. And for this year, we have a funding envelope of 2.5 billion. You know,
Well,
and
Well, there you have it. So
yeah.
if you look at it, that's the NHS. Then if you look at the
Mm.
spending on schools, then if you look at the spending on
Mm.
defence, then if you look at the spending, etc., on and on. This is what I'm saying. We want all of these areas want more money, but it has to come from somewhere, and we
Gotta
don't
come
have a
from somewhere.
split. So there has to be winners, and unfortunately, there has to
Yeah.
be losers. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying
Because,
that the
yeah.
NHS or the nurses should be losers, by the way.
Yeah.
I think what Jeremy Hunt said today is that there are going to be a number of losers, and of course, Labour will say it's 12 years of failure. But Jeremy
Mm.
Hunt and Rishi Sunak have only been in the job 4 or 5 weeks, so
Yeah.
it's not their problem per se. They are simply trying to come up with solutions now to address it.
A nurse responded to me earlier to my flyer reactions to Chancellor's autumn statement. Her answer was, "You'll be broke." That's a nice response. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to hear your views as well and your feedback as to the Chancellor's budget today, autumn statement, and are you a winner, are you a loser? There's another person who is we're talking about whether he's a winner or a loser, and he's crying foul, and that is Zelensky. I don't know if you guys have been monitoring what's going on with Russia regarding these two deaths regarding a missile which went into Poland. Uh, People are blaming Russia, but everyone is looking at it and say actually maybe it came from Ukraine trying to down the Russian attack. What's your take on it? Everybody's actually saying it doesn't matter if it came from Ukraine, it is Russia ultimately. And even Zelensky was actually even saying at one point, "You have touched Poland, guys. NATO, act now." And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying,
Okay. Well, let's
I
just
didn't
break
like
it
that.
down.
Yeah,
What
go on.
does what does Zelensky want to happen? Just because this missile has landed in Poland, we do
Mm,
not want World War III. We do not want to act in a way which is knee-jerk reaction and take action against Russia unilaterally with NATO
mm,
suddenly firing bombs into Russia. Completely the wrong way to go about it. I think
mm,
the way that NATO has responded by actually looking into the incident and actually, yes, of course, we know that Russia are firing missiles into Ukraine, and we know that Ukraine have anti-air defense missiles to try and sort of make sure that they don't arrive. But I think it would be foolish if all of a sudden Zelensky wants the West and NATO to suddenly take up arms and start shooting down at Russia.
mm,
Ukraine are very close to ending this war in terms of the activities that their brave soldiers have taken and the leadership from Zelensky. For me, I think they should continue with what they're doing and let this one play out as an accident and simply move on.
I mean, I think Zelensky, I think he is desperate for NATO to come in.
mm,
I think, and he's playing a dangerous game there, because if NATO comes in, right, Ukraine is totally wiped out. I mean, Russia's going to come in with their forces.
mm,
NATO is going to come in, and that's the time. I mean, Ukraine now is complaining. Let's say complaining, for use of a better term, that their electricity, their gas, and everything has been cut off.
mm.
It's going to be worse if NATO comes in, if that's what Zelensky wants. And I
Yeah.
think anything that happens, anything, he's clutching at straws here,
Mm,
wanting NATO to come in to intervene. That's what he wants,
mm,
and I feel uncomfortable. I understand what he may be saying and what may have
mm.
happened in the past, but I'm a bit uncomfortable now with him
Yeah.
saying that this is Russia,
Yeah.
and so therefore Russia has attacked
Yeah.
Poland, and so NATO needs to come in right now. No,
I think I think one of the reasons also why I'm so uncomfortable with how this whole thing is going on now is that there seem not to be a push for a diplomatic way out. Even and many persons are actually championing the cause for Zelensky and Ukraine. And I don't think Russia has exhausted most of their resources, as many people said. Uh, and by Zelensky saying he has no doubt that Ukraine was not to blame for the missile strike that killed two people, he said he had received assurance from his top commanders that it wasn't our missile. He has called his official to be allowed to access the blast site and be part of the investigation. And when you think about this, in a war, these things do happen. And as Anthony said, one has got to be toned down with this rhetoric and these words. The last thing we want at this time now is this. People are feeling it in the world, man. We're going through COVID, cost of living, America, UK, Jamaica. Everybody's feeling this, and they just need a time to settle down. Settle down, man.
Yeah, I think, as I said, Selborne,
Mm, mm.
NATO's not going to fire. NATO's not going to
Yeah,
suddenly organize an army and fire at Russia. It's just not going to happen,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
know, and I believe that the war in Ukraine is entering the end game now,
Yes.
because if you look at it, Russia's troops have actually
Pull back.
reversed a number of key areas. Yes, they can still fire long range missiles, but in terms of their objective to actually take Ukraine as a city, as a country, that mission is long gone. That's never going to happen now. So really, you know, what we're going to see happening towards the end, I would suspect probably early in the new year, is there will be some sort of diplomatic exit in terms of to try and leave Putin in a way where he can leave with some sort of credibility, because right now he has none, without it looking like he's been really sort of run over by Zelensky. He's not going to want to hear that. So they're going to try and find a way, a wording, because as
Give
I
him
said,
a way out. Give him a way out.
as I said at the beginning, words have consequences, and they want to try and find words that try and soften the blow for him having to exit without actually achieving anything from this war.
Yes. All right, Gary, last word.
No, I mean, I agree with with Tony. I think things have really gotten to a stage now. We're at a point where I believe something is going to happen. What is going to happen? I don't think we really know what, but we're in the end game scenario, and because there's even been talk of them trying to move within Russia. That is, that there is some discussion of getting rid of Putin. Whether that is so or not, whether that happens, we don't know. But I think we're in the area where something is about to give.
That's been going on. That's been talked about for years. You know what I mean? Putin is
Well,
Putin.
no, well, more so now, Stillborn, than years, because he's taken Russia into a war that's, let us say, right, even if it's not 50%, it could be more. But let's just be conservative by saying 25% of Russians are not in agreement with.
Yeah. Who said that? Where you heard that from?
No, he's just saying as a figure of speech, Selborn. Let's just say. So the point is, right? Let's just be real. That Putin is in a very awkward situation right now. You know, many Russians have lost their lives, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. Most people now know of the war taking place. They don't agree with it. They don't actually know what the mission is. What's the objective? There is none. So for them, they're seeing it in their pockets in terms of shops closing and all the rest of it.
Can't travel the world.
And so therefore Putin himself is actually not seen as being the great leader that he once was. So of course, you know, there will be talk amongst other generals to try and remove him. But that's the reason why I'm saying, as Gary is saying, there's never been a better time or never been a worse time for him, because he's on really a slippery slope. And you know, when the exit from Ukraine does take place, they'll have to find some fine words to give him something to fall back on. But I suspect when that does happen, you'll also see that he may also suddenly be replaced.
Yes. Well, we wish them all the best, and we hope that it will all come to a amicable end where everyone wins somehow. And condolences to all those who have passed away during this war. Are you guys, anybody going to the World Cup football? Hold on. Anthony, do that again, Anthony.
That's A1, man.
Anthony, you need to do it again. I need that for my shot. Gary, you going to the World Cup? Nobody want to get into the controversy. Anyway, let's leave it like that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best if you go to the World Cup as well. But it's going to be the mother of all World Cups. It seems like it's more political than anything.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, just on the a side note to that, if you're not going into a debate or a talk about that, I really think I wouldn't be surprised if there's trouble there, to tell you the truth.
Yes.
I don't expect, if nothing happens, then I'll be overjoyed. But I think there's going to be problems, personally.
Yes. As the song saying, Jamaica's trouble again. The whole world is in afraid. But listen, guys, listen. Thank you so much for tonight. Any last word? Any more observations on anything before we go?
No, let's just give the government a chance, and in order to try and actually see what their autumn statement brings, and we can't judge an autumn statement in 1 hour, 1 day. Let's now see what happens in the next coming weeks and the next couple of months, and get things back into a stable position. That's really what my request would be.
Well, I'm going to actually pull you up on something because you gave some powerful predictions, which all came through it. Let's just, what's your predictions for Rishi and the future regarding the economy, Anthony? Might as well just go for it. You're always doing it.
Well, my immediate prediction is that the autumn statement is going to hold. Richie and Jeremy Hunt, I think, will actually stay the term up until the next general election. And then obviously, what happens in the general election is down to the great and the good of the British people.
Okay, good. Thanks for that, Gary.
No, I will side with my learned friend. Yeah.
You should be the prime minister and do that first statement when they go to the dispatch box. I refer you to my statement which I made earlier.
Yeah. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with what Anthony says. Give this guy a chance.
Yeah.
And at the next general election, the country may just, depending on how Rishi of what hand, well, we know the hand that has been dealt him, but it all depends on how he handles this.
Yes.
And how successful he is. Then the country may just put him back in there and say, listen, you've done a good job, just continue.
Well, I said it. 1 day in politics is so much, and 2 years brings some level of stability, and I believe that's why Labour is somewhat worried, because right now there's this level of calm that I sense, but we watch the space and see it unfolds as we go on. Thank you guys so much for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining. Those on Instagram, those on Facebook. Vita was here as well, Gary. She said to you, she said, hello. You're good. You're number one fan. Mr. Thinking, thanks for doing now. And Anthony, before we go, because you're making some waves with your books and some great reviews coming through. Have you got any special? Are you going to be giving away one of your books for on the show or something like that? Tell us about.
Yes, I certainly am. I'm going to be giving one away to. I may actually give away 2 copies to your readers over Christmas, Elborn, in terms of asking any of your readers who want a copy of the book to actually maybe write into you and give you a reason why they feel that they're ready to think it, plan it, do it now.
Okay, fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll create something and we'll put it out there, and then we'll give 2 books away for the Christmas period. And Gary, what are you giving away? You're gonna pray for them? Oil of Holy Ghost. Sorry.
Well, you said it, Silver.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, have a good night. Anthony, thank you so much, and all the best to your dad. And wish you all the best. And sorry to your dad as well. Gary, all the best. Thank you both. Cheers. Good night. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. It was a very interesting show, just straight to the point. Let's just deal with the issues about the economy and what the present Chancellor is doing, and Rishi. I do recall during the COVID period, we always talking about Rishi and the Chancellor, and we still have him now. And I believe it shows some level of maturity at this time. So, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. And well, not even the doubt, the figures were there, as Anthony really was saying a while ago. The figures are there. Got to give and take some, give some, take some. So let me hear what you think, your views and everything. All the best. Have a good night and peace out.